Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Retail Leadership Summit 2025 on the second day. And here we have with us stalwarts from the FMCG industry. Today we are going to talk about premiumization, health, and everyday essentials, understanding the factors shaping FMCG growth in 2025. A couple of questions which I thought I should, ask. FMCG is one of the most resilient sectors, but it has not been immune to inflationary pressures. How is the industry adapting to the rising cost of raw materials and logistics? With the increasing emphasis on health and wellness, how are FMCG companies rethinking their product portfolios to meet evolving consumer demands? The rise of quick commerce has transformed the way people shop for daily essentials. Do you see this trend sustaining over the long term, or will it plateau once the initial excitement fades? Digitization and AI are playing an increasing role in retail and FMCG. What are the biggest opportunities and challenges that technology presents to the sector? And many more. So the deliberation that we are going to have in next 45 minutes is going to discuss and evolve mostly around these areas. So let me start with Arun, from Hindustan Unilever. Arun, HUL reaches millions of households every day. How are you using consumer insights and data to predict demand and improve last mile availability for your products?
So, as HUL, we actually reach over 90% of of Indian households. We've got about 75 billion units that we sell on an annual basis. Right? So, what ends up happening is we have this information with us, which helps us understand what kind of consumer interactions are happening with our brands, with our products, not just on a daily basis, but on an annual basis. And with the wide portfolio that we have a sense of what the cross-usership of the brands are being. But that is just one part of the story, right? Because once you have a lot of this information that tells you where the brands are being sold, what kind of consumers are using those brands, and what are the products that are being consumed, we also need to make sure that we use it in a right manner, and we are able to make sense of all of this information that comes. So to do that, we actually use data and AI in a very extensive manner, which essentially helps create an underlying data lake, which is called the market data lake that we have within Unilever. That ends up ingesting all of these data sets that we sell to the consumers. And on top of it, we layer it with external data sets as well. It could be data sets across weather, across government, across other input parameters that might be to help make sense of the kind of consumption patterns that are there. And what that helps us do is actually to predict what are the outcomes, right? And hence we know what are the kind of changes that we are seeing in the environment, in the consumer behavior, and the external weather conditions. And that helps us then predict what are the kind of consumptions that are going to happen across different geographies, different consumer segments, different planning systems, etc. And that's the way we actually help understand the consumer demand. Making sure we have the right products available is another set of the story, but maybe we'll adjust this a little bit later. But that's how we use it to ensure we maximize the amount of opportunity that we see from a consumer perspective in curating and creating the right amount of products and making it available at the right set of doorsteps in the channels and in the outlets that the consumers are looking to shop for.
Thank you, Arun. Damodarji, I'm merging two questions because it's a continuation of data and insights, etc. Given the scale at which Reliance Retail operates, how do you balance standardization with hyper-local preferences across different parts of the country? And with formats like Star Bazaar and JioMart, you are catering to both traditional and digital-first consumers. What's driving the strongest growth today, store expansion or digital adoption?
So my consumer in Nagarkoil doesn't care whether I'm a big scale operator. Either I'm relevant or not relevant. So there is no choice for me to not localize. Yeah. So when it is food, festival, celebrations, and even weather in India, things are different and non-standard. So it is complex, but it is fun, complex, challenging, and it's fun. And the deeper we go into India, the more we have to keep learning this, and I'm doing it all the time. I very different when you start going into smaller and smaller places, whether it is Sikar in Rajasthan or Silchar in Assam. So there is no choice. The good part of it is, when you are an insider, it's complicated. But very soon it becomes a competitive edge, because anyone coming in new has to go through the entire learning curve of tuning in. So we don't really, yeah, it makes us the challenge of tuning to Indian consumer. There is nothing called Indian consumer. Tuning to the Kozhikode consumer and the Nokha consumer is a challenging thing that keeps us on our toes. But I know with each passing month, I'm building a competitive edge for someone else to come and catch up with me. So that's our approach to standardization. Is the infrastructure, the methods that we use, the logistics that we use, the supply chain, those things are standardized. What we offer to the consumer is the more localized, the more tuned into local needs, the better has been our journey. You mentioned about Smart Bazaar and JioMart. Smart Bazaar consumer, shopper, is not the traditional shopper. Yeah. When we sit in forums like this, we believe that modern retail, physical and digital, equals the market. It doesn't. So the person who walks into a Smart Bazaar store is a fairly evolved and aspiring consumer. And we simplistically say that the person who is shopping on JioMart is a digital first customer. Not at all. Every customer, there is no such thing as a Smart Bazaar consumer, shopper or a JioMart customer, even 10 years back. Every consumer is multi-channel consumer across the board, right through history of retail evolution. All consumers are multi-channel customer. Everybody who believes that I have an entire purchase basket of the family is in Coco Land. So there are my Smart Bazaar consumer also finds for some shopping occasions the digital way of shopping relevant. For some shopping occasions, the good old familiar, highly responsive and agile Kirana way of shopping relevant. And I think we have to find, for each of our formats, physical or digital, we have to keep finding increasing relevance in this whole thing, and we have to never be under the illusion that we own the consumer one way or the other.
We don't own the consumer, and we have to keep innovating and find innovative ways to engage them, is what I decipher from Damodarji. There is no Indian consumer, and he may, as per the requirement, be online or he may be on ground, as what we discussed yesterday. Those insights were excellent, Damodarji. Now I'll go to Hari. Hari sir, Big Basket was an early mover in online grocery and has faced increasing competition from various platforms. How are you differentiating yourself in an evolving market where convenience is key? And now we are entering that space.
Hitesh, as usual, you asked me a very complex question which I don't have an answer to. The business is just about 2-3 years old, evolving. And I think every player in this business is trying to figure out right now how they're going to differentiate. But I must tell you one thing. The first time that I've seen in a new business or a new thing that's launched, that execution capability or execution is not a differentiator. And that's a wonderful thing that's happened actually. I'm talking more from the QC industry per se, that I think all of us and everybody who got in, I think started executing extremely well day one. And I think that's one of the reasons why we also saw the explosion, because this is such an execution heavy business that if people didn't execute to the promise of 10 minutes, the business wouldn't have been where it is. So usually execution becomes a differentiator for you to remain in execution strong, heavy businesses. but this time it isn't. So because of which everybody's trying to figure out what is now going to differentiate. But let me just tell you the way we're looking at it, I think from a big basket perspective, I think we are going to really use assortment as the differentiator. And that's what we're trying to do and trying to attempt and trying to do many things. It's also costing us a lot because when you use assortment and you really don't know what the consumer will come and buy in a quick commerce platform, you also end up incurring costs of liquidation and costs of a whole lot of that stuff. So that is something that we have chosen to do. And thanks to some of our partnerships that we have in the Tata Group, we are able to bring unique assortment through partnerships with them and unique ways of even delivering them, without, for example, having to carry inventory. So we've built models where you pick up from stores and deliver it within 10 minutes, something that I think JioMart is attempting to do. And that's available across categories. We've built larger dark stores. Our entire set of dark stores that we're going to have, which is about 700 odd numbers, are going to be larger ones. We're doing 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. It's taken us longer because it's very, very difficult to find that size in the catchments that you want, and hence it was difficult. But we chose to take that path because we think assortment will differentiate us. And when I say assortment, it's across multiple categories.
We will come to this part in detail in the second part of our discussion. I'm trying to hold fort here.
Assortment doesn't mean cars anyway.
But there are, okay, we'll come to that. Right now I have a question for Prashant from the breakfast industry from Kellogg's. Prashant, the Indian breakfast segment has seen an increasing competition from local and global brands. How does Kellogg's position itself to drive this growth in this evolving category? That is one. And we'll answer this and then I'll come to the second.
So, no, thanks. Lovely question. Definitely, if I compare to maybe 3 years ago where, we were undisputed market leaders, we've seen a lot of brands enter the segment. But I think the way we handle it is to first remember what our role is as category leaders and, with a 100-year plus heritage. It's our job to grow the category and build this category. It's still, I would say, a very low penetration category when you compare it to many others that exist in the country. And therefore, task number 1 to 5, and just to build on what DM said, it's all about building relevance. And this time it's relevance of the category. Yeah. And that's what we stay focused on. Of course, there's competition. And I think, that's the fun of working in India. You are never going to have an easy ride. Yeah. There are going to be competitors who are going to challenge you from all angles. Right now, a lot of them challenge you from a price point of view. But at the same time, my message to my team is always look out. Look out for what can we learn from competition and get better at, because that's what's going to take you and propel you further down the line. So I think if we can continue to grow the category, keep ourselves relevant, keep our value right, because that's always going to be very important in India, we will start winning. And I think we've done that by making our concepts, our propositions more and more edgy, more and more relevant, both to get consumers to enter the category, but also then comes product, and make sure you've got the best-in-class products. We take a lot of trouble to do blind product benchmarking and make sure we are the best. And when you do that, that combination usually helps you sustain 70 plus kind of market shares that we have in some of the segments of breakfast.
Thanks, Prashant. I'll ask Tarun this wellness question and then I'll come back to you.
Sure.
Health and wellness products are becoming mainstream in India. Are you seeing any specific consumer segments, such as Gen Z or urban professionals, driving this growth and many more than others?
Thanks for asking this question. Actually, if you really look at it, I think more so in last 5 years post-COVID, we've seen a lot of, almost it acted as a catalyst where food as a way to better health and well-being has become, almost a mainstay. And therefore, even your regular products are trying to transition to some health or wellness perspective to it. Plus, a lot of new categories are evolving as we speak. There are, protein-led categories, something we've also participated in, protein bars, protein chips, etc. So a lot of concern over the right nutrition, whether it is macro or micro, has happened, and it is obviously led by Gen Z urban professionals, and therefore we do see that. But the other thing I want to make talk about is the fact that sometimes we assume that the worldview is that the urban is the only market for some of these new categories, but it will be a matter of time when it percolates much deeper. And I will give you an example of almost a decade back, doing a rural immersion, and what would have been defined as a bottom of pyramid market. I think there, I was a little bit more surprised. It's about 12, 13 years back. They were saying exactly what the urban consumer was saying. And I don't think the world has changed. It's only gone faster with the media, which is a great leveler. So what I'm seeing by urban professionals as a faster adoption is going to percolate down. It may take a little bit of time and therefore a layered adoption. But some of these categories will move faster. A good example is my sugar-free business, where we are a significant player. Almost 25% business already comes from the rural consumers. So while digital commerce is disproportionately large, but so is a faster growth and adoption happening in the rural space. So urban professionals, Gen Z play a role, but let's not forget that the media is making everything more accessible and more democratic.
Taking this health question ahead, Prashant, this is for you. Health-conscious consumers are demanding, products with fewer preservatives and more natural ingredients. How is Kellogg's responding to this shift in dietary preferences?
Thanks, and definitely this is one of the big trends. People getting more and more conscious about what they eat. They're also inundated with a whole host of information, right? I mean, you just have to pick up any form of media and you'll be, almost drowned out with the different kind of points of view that will come. Everything from, sugar to fat to you name it, there are people giving you advice. So I think the way we approach it is quite simple. I think first of all, we are very lucky as a category. We are fundamentally, low in fat, cholesterol free, preservative free. I mean, breakfast cereals are fundamentally got all that. So we make sure that the fundamentals of the category are known to people. All our breakfast cereals, especially the chocos, the cornflakes, they're all fortified with vitamins, minerals, and they have been for years. So the first thing is to make sure that the core of your business, people understand really what it is, right? And you keep giving that message consistently because they are getting swirled with all sorts of other information. The second thing I can tell you is, unboxing and, unraveling a category like muesli. A lot of people didn't understand what a muesli is. So if you see our current proposition, we really talk about being a 12-in-1 product, but it's also to explain the category to consumers. And that's what we've done really well, very transparently calling out exactly what we've got in the pack, right on front of pack. And I think that's worked very, very well with consumers. But like you said, India has a whole range of options that people are looking for. And probably well before a lot of influencers started talking about it, we launched things like no added sugar muesli, almost 6 years back. Now, this was well ahead of the curve, but we knew a time will come when people will be asking for products like this. And today, that's a very important part of the muesli segment. So you've got to find a way to meet the niche requirements. At the same time, don't ever forget to talk about the fundamentals of your category and what it does for consumers. Because going back to my earlier statement, relevance is everything.
Relevance is everything. So what is relevant today, and if I can ask our panelists to say any one word, sorry, two words. Two words. What is happening right now in the industry? Any two words that is taking the industry by storm, sir? Arun, DM, sir, Tarun and Prashant.
If you want the magic words which you're looking for, I'll say quick commerce.
So what's happening there, and that's where the audience also is waiting for. But what is happening in quick commerce? If as a layman, we see so much of information, we are experiencing products and services in quick commerce, and it has taken the country by storm. But I would just like to ask what's happening in this area, and no one better than DM to start with. Sir, what is your view on quick commerce? It's a simple question and an open-ended question, but we'll start with your views, sir.
Even if you ask me a complex question, my answer will be simple. Don't worry about that.
That's what DM is.
So the two things for me are interesting. One is, in a modern trade way, the option of quick commerce cuts the gap between desire and consumption to the shortest distance that we have seen ever. In a modern trade way, it was always happening in the Kirana way. Whatever you wanted as replenishment came to you in 10 minutes, from bread to a toothpaste. But aspirational products, new age products, I feel like it, I have it. I don't have to plan for it. I have it and therefore I consume it. I think from what it does to overall consumption creation and expression of new incomes, it's a lovely thing to have for all of us as industry. The second, like it happened with modern trade some years back, like it happened with e-commerce some years back, the share of debate, the share of voice of discussions in forums for any new phenomena is always about 20 times higher than the share of market. Yeah. And that's fine. We are all industry leaders, therefore we will discuss what is on the edge. But we are also business owners, and therefore we must see the full pie. I learned from what will happen when I speculate for myself, I learned from one thing, a phenomena, unrelated but related, I believe. 5 years back, my son said, when a new car was being bought in the family, 5 years back he said, who buys cars these days? In the era of extremely high quality, digitally enabled Uber, Ola, etc., buying car is so last century. Neither that son of mine, 5 years from then, nor his friends, nor anybody is talking that language now. Yeah? The free lunch has ended. The habit has stayed. The phenomena has stayed. But sanity has returned. The quality-value equation has come to an equilibrium. In today's language, the total addressable market has shrunk to a sensible place, but the phenomena stays. And I think I will celebrate the fact that even today, when you go out of the airport with 50 air-conditioned blue cabs standing there, everybody is fussed about their Uber driver not reporting. So the habit stays. What share of market happens, we will all watch 5 years from now, or maybe in today's era, 18 months from now.
That's the big statement. We'll see 5 years from now. You know, it's what friends also say, or maybe competitors also say. देखते हैं 5 साल बाद आप किधर हो हम किधर है. But that's what this game is all about. Right from the Kirana store to modern trade, and then the e-commerce, and now it is in the format of quick commerce. Hari sir, the question that you said, it's not about cars. But I just want to know where will the consumer stop, or at what level will the consumer go, or be adopting the quick commerce from a category perspective. Because yesterday also somebody spoke about selling a car on quick commerce and getting it delivered in 10-15 minutes. And you also mentioned right now. कहाँ तक जाएगा सर ये?
I really don't know right now where it will go, but I think some of the things that people are trying are more PR and more I don't think they are sustainable, scalable, right? The car bit is certainly not. I thought the ambulance bit was a great idea from my good friend, but I don't think it's scalable to an extent, so it can be done at scale. So the answer to that question is, what will work is what can scale, right? Because that's really what's really important for the business to work. This business is all about scale. This business is all about density. And so anything that doesn't give you that, the business doesn't work. And so that's the only issue. So what are people doing today? Trying multiple multiple things that I said, and somewhere you'll reach, that equilibrium. Today, I think, at least from all us players' perspective, it's almost starting to become a 50-50 kind of share, which means 50 is grocery, 50 is non-grocery. While it started as grocery initially, where it was almost 85-90% plus, it's now come down to almost 50-50 in terms of number of SKUs. Slowly in terms of value of sales also, but that might tilt towards, for example, electronics, etc. might be higher. But it's 50-50 today already. And a lot of it is coming through accessories, a lot of things are coming through daily needs, daily things, stuff that you need. In fact, I must give you this quick example of somebody from ex-Levers, who's right now the CFO of Tata Motors. So I met him at a Tata conference, and he gave me this little thing about how excited he got about e-commerce, because he needed a card that goes into his car that then allowed Google Maps to actually play. So it's an SD card that he had to insert. And for some reason, when he bought the car, it didn't come with it. And they said they'll deliver it later or whatever. So he chose to go to Blinkit, and he found it there and bought it, and it came in 10 minutes, and he could operate that. So that kind of completely, changed his whole view on what QC can actually do, for you. So it's an SD card for a car to enable Google Maps. So you can go up to that extent, right? So I think it'll evolve. I think it's just too early. People are trying a lot of things. You have constraint in terms of how much you can stock in a 4,000 or 5,000 square feet warehouse. So you'll keep experimenting. You need to be agile. You need to have technology systems built so that you are able to move stocks between stores, etc. in a real quick manner, and that's how you learn.
Arun and Prashant, and then Tarun also. How is quick commerce impacting the trade? Whichever way is positive, negative. What are your views on that? And then we'll take it ahead.
So, again, this is a question that keeps getting asked in every single forum per se. So I'm going to answer it in two parts. See, if you look at the Indian FMCG consumption, it's actually sitting at about $39-40 odd, and that's a fraction of what the Indian consumption or what the FMCG consumption is in other parts of the world. And I'm not even talking developed markets, but Southeast Asian markets. We're sitting at about a third and a half of some of our Southeast Asian counterparts. So the pie is huge, and the pie will expand only by having new products entering new households. And as DM and Hari said, what quick commerce does is an opportunity to expand the pie faster. So you have more consumers experiencing new products, new categories, and hence driving the consumption at an overall level. And the Indian consumption story is something that is a huge potential for a market like India. And different channels and different players will continue to make an opportunity out of it. And I do expect that to continue, and I do expect a role for all channels to continue to exist even in the future. And every single, I think even over the last 3 decades have predicted the impact on the Kirana stores. That is not transpired, and I don't expect that to transpire as well, because I do see that the market potential is quite sizable, and I do expect that the market will evolve and will expand dramatically in the next few years. I think the one part of it that DMs and Hari mentioned is, while the one side of it is the consumption story, the other side of it is actually the supply chain and the operations story. And there is a fundamental rewiring in the supply chain and operations that will happen in a country like ours to actually service some of these requirements that come in. Again, Indian logistics costs is about 14%, gone down to about 11. Global counterparts at about 6 or 7% logistics costs. Those amount of shifts that we'll need to do from a logistics perspective, because the inventory carrying model is itself going to change for both us, for the partners, for the channel players. And that's the fundamental rewiring that we will need to do as an industry on the supply chain perspective, because some of the old truths will no longer hold true. And that was what we will actually see as reframing in the next coming 18 to 24 months is my belief.
Yeah,
Thanks.
just to add to what Arun was saying, in fact, I met Arun, at a little meeting with the global chairman, and that's one of the things I was saying, how supply chains will evolve actually from a quick commerce perspective. And that takes me to a little story that Suresh Narayanan from Nestle talked about, saying and a quick commerce player asked him that, if you can deliver in 10 minutes, if we can deliver in 10 minutes, why can't you deliver in 10 minutes to us? And so I think it's a great thing, right? And it's going to evolve, and I'm sure there's enough happening in that space to start to start seeing newer things on the supply chain front?
No, but let me take off from what Arun was saying. I completely agree. It's going to challenge the way we manage logistics. But there is a shift happening. I think we can't close our eyes to it. There is a massive shift happening, especially in top towns and metros where quick commerce is doing well. There is a share moving away from general trade into quick commerce. So I believe the general trade channel will have to evolve. I think there is still a lot of opportunity for general trade, especially when you look at things like impulse, right? Impulse foods and impulse drinks are definitely going to be a mainstay that will continue. And how they evolve their play. There are many general trade players who are making shifts in the way they operate, the way they connect with consumers. And that's something that they will also have to do because there is a shift happening in top metros towards quick commerce. Now, can we grow the pie fast enough? Because you asked us, as I said, from a company point of view, it's a channel shift. So we're enjoying the growth that's coming from quick commerce. But if we look at it from a larger infrastructure point of view, our distributors, etc., we've got to support them in making these shifts and therefore the retail chain as well. Because this evolution is happening very, very quickly and sometimes quicker than they are able to cope with.
Yeah, I think most of it is covered, but if I were to say, I think just to build a little bit further on this, I think most of the shifts that we've seen as urban, top 10 towns, then top 30, and therefore there is a kind of layer that exists. I think in rural, we've not even seen anything significantly. In urban, obviously, as the consumers shift and if each of the channels coexist, the role of the channels, what we expect out of them, what the consumers are visiting them for will evolve. And I think some of the points which Mr. Mal also was mentioning, I think which packs, what products will get bought, and some of those assortments will get evolved. And I think one of the biggest barrier to this shift is we as manufacturers or marketers, because we still live in the past and we're saying that this is how I used to do and this is how I expect a certain ROI for the distributors. So we, as the consumers are adopting fairly fast, we have to start partnering better to adapt to these shifts so that we can provide the right SKUs, right products at the right time. I think the biggest change will be for us because the consumer is used to, we were talking about the fact that consumer used to buy that neighborhood stores, now it's happening in an organized way. So consumer is seeing the least amount of habit, the only shift is instead of calling, they're doing it on an app. But how do we deal with this, I think is the biggest challenge that we have to do and our channel partners to make it viable.
DM sir, your views on the disruption this is going to make and this is making right now and how to deal with it.
Every channel will respond in different ways. Yeah? And if you keep concentrating on what you are good at and keep listening to and doing newer things, then you're fine. So I get asked this, and therefore let me state it upfront. And people are surprised when I say that in the city of Bangalore, in the city of Gurgaon, and in the city of Mumbai, the footfalls in our stores, in smart bazaars, are actually growing. Yeah? People expect completely the opposite. But the fact is, and we were talking about health, wellness being a trend. Another factoid, depending on the month of the year and the overall action in the category, in some months, Britannia Nutri-Choice is my highest selling biscuit. And in some other months, see, retailers can take names, there is absolutely no problem. Yeah? In some other months, it's Sunfeast Dark Fantasy is the highest selling biscuit in the category. So in India, there are several paths to expanding, servicing the customers, staying relevant, and even premiumization. For me as a retailer, whether people want center-filled chocolate or whether they want millet-based cookies, both are fine because both are premiumizing is the way I look at it. What are the choices that I'm making? I'm saying the ultimate omni-channel business in this country forever has been the Kirana guy. Half of his sales were physically done at the store. Half of them were home delivered. I'm making a choice to work hard and see, can I be the modern trade, modern zamane ka version of the kirana store, which is be omni-channel in its genetics itself, in the construction and the way we are done. As Hari mentioned, what will play out, I think keep asking us, people like us, practicing people like us, keep asking us this question every quarter and we will have the next and next answer.
Hari sir, now since we have got approximately 10 minutes, I would ask each one of our panelists to give their closing remarks succinctly, so that we can have the final closure. What do you see would be the success? And we all know, but from your perspective, the way you are strategizing and implementing your business, what would be the key pillars for success for the quick commerce business in the next, let's say, 2 years, if not 5 years or whatever, next 2 years, 18 months, as you initially mentioned? What would be the key pillars?
I still come back to what I was talking about. I think, making sure that you're trying and getting the right assortment. The problem that we have here in India is that this is the only country that quick commerce has worked, right? And so we don't have a benchmark. So I think India behaves differently. We understand all that, but you get some benchmarks from what's happening globally. It started in Europe, and the business is shut within 6 months or a year of starting, and it's not even there in China. So it's the only country in the world that has quick commerce, and hence that puts the additional pressure on us to actually figure out, what's going to work, what's not going to work. Like I said, execution, I think everybody's solved for. I think we've got that right. I think getting the right assortment, right, and making sure that we work very closely with all the companies and everybody who actually works with us. See, the problem is that you have only 5,000 square feet. People think that e-commerce is endless. It's not endless, right? You have only 5,000 square feet, and in that 5,000 square feet, you want to do a million things. Because quick commerce is like now saying, can I give everything in, that you want in 10 minutes? So unless we really rejig and work the supply chain together, I think it will restrict us. So I think that's the other thing that, that I think we will see evolving going forward. But largely, I think it's going to be an assortment play, right?
So Hari is here for assortment play. Prashant, what's your take, the final take on this?
So, as somebody who's either playing a challenger role or building a category, I think it's always going to be two things. One, understanding consumer needs better than the next player, understanding it deeper, and then addressing those needs in partnership with the customers, right? If you can do that really well, just building on Hari's point, you'll get that assortment right. You'll build the consumption to a level of penetration and frequency that will help grow the category, and ideally, while you're doing all that, try and premiumize as well. If you can do those things better than your competitor, simply because you've got deeper insights, that's what will help make the difference in the long term.
I think there are a couple of things which will matter to all of us in the business, whether we are the brand owners, retailers, etc. I think the customer is seeking what is in it for me, and therefore the mass personalization is one thing which will matter, and which links up to whether the assortment, right assortment for the right consumers, which is happening, whether it's AI enabled or whatever data enabled, or from a brand's perspective, how can I service different needs, different points. So I think mass personalization, and that I think this channel provides a big opportunity for. The other is trust-based, science-based brand building. So that's the other piece that I see as future of business as it will evolve. Obviously, the online world is better equipped to service both these needs from a manufacturer's point of view. But I think even the businesses will figure out their GTMs, even when they go back to the traditional kiranas also, to meet these needs. But that's really how I'm thinking, taking a step back and future trends of where the business will move towards.
So a couple of perspectives on this. So one, I do believe Q-commerce has a great product market fit, so it will continue to be relevant for a sizable part of the population. However, of course, we'll start seeing a certain amount of saturation as we go forward. Right? One of the things that we will start looking at and as consumers will start looking at is, in addition to convenience, is also trust and quality. And that is what makes a big difference for stickiness. Your consumer experience starts coming in when you first have the experience of the service that comes in, but also gets amplified with the trust and quality. And there's a saying, so trust comes walking, but gallops away on a horseback. So the minute trust gets broken in this promise, then that trust, regaining it is going to be extremely difficult, and that's what we will see the industry now starting to grapple with as they expand into serving more assortment, more geographies, more localities as it comes in. And what I spoke about in the earlier part, and I do believe there'll be a fundamental shift in how supply chains operate, both across manufacturers and across partners, because to service this thing of the consumer, there'll be a fundamental shift in how we've seen the inventory-led models, scale cost efficiencies versus logistics cost emerging over time. And we are yet to see it starting to play out, and I do believe that will be a dramatic change that we will see over the next 18 to 24 months.
DM sir, your final views on this, please.
As a complete multi-channel player, as Reliance Retail, our real bet is on the consumption expansion in India. And we will play all channels seriously. Some we will play ahead of others, some we will play catch up with others. What we love in the quick commerce space is the fact that there are such a large number of multiple players. So in a very Darwinian way, we are all making our individual mistakes. We are all watching each other's mistakes and successes. I think, therefore, the learning curve and the iteration to finding the recipe by looking at our house as well as by looking over the shoulders at the other players in the industry will be much faster in this space. So this will be a young, fast evolving, and quickly finding equilibrium kind of place. That is zingy for me. But the real bet for anyone in India, whether it is the Indian stock market or whether it is the Indian consumption space, has to be on a 5 or 10-year horizon. And their life is absolutely bullish.
Excellent. I think the last lines of DM sir were very, very motivating. So we are here for a 5 to 10-year horizon, and that's where he is bullish on. So with this, we have got hardly a minute or so left. I would like to sum up our discussion in so many words. Our panelists spoke about assortment, like Hari sir did mention assortment as a key, one of the key pillars to success in the quick commerce race. But apart from that, looking at the customer needs, which is always evolving, premiumization and mass personalization, both at extreme end, but I think both of them are equally relevant. AI and data enablement is something which will be required not only for offline, online, but even the on-ground offline businesses as well. Service is the core to all of these. Trust and brand building. I think one of those key fundamentals would be, if the brand is strong enough, there will always be a pull strategy. And as far as the manufacturers or the other players who are on the product side, even the service side, if the brand is strong, then the consumer, whether online or offline, will always go and demand for that same brand. So Tarun's point on that was bang on. Relevance, how long you will be relevant, but that will also saturate over a period of time, that relevance also. So you may have the first mover advantage. As DM sir said, we are also learning, and they are also learning. But eventually after 2 years, 3 years, what would be the differentiation? And that's where we'll have to wait and watch. Convenience is the fundamental again in the quick commerce, and that's what quick commerce is all about, if I have to use one more word. Quality and trust is what, Arun also mentioned about quality, trust, stickiness. And that's where, if I've got the brand, if I've got the quality, I am going to stick to the brand, irrespective of the channel. So if that is kept in mind, I think, because next growth for the quick commerce guys would also be the private labels. And since we did not have time, we have not discussed that. But that private label strategy in quick commerce is again something that we will be discussing in future. Expansion geographically for the players, not only manufacturers, but all of them in all the formats. SCM shift is something which is a big challenge, but people are coping up with that. Consumption expansion is in India is what DM sir said. Okay, he's banking on that. And the way we are going from 1.4 to 1.45 billion to where we will be 5 years down the line, I think consumption would not be an issue. But the learning curve is steep, but it is fast as well. And 5 years or 10 years horizon is what they are banking on. With this, I would like to thank my esteemed panelists for sharing all the wonderful insights and gracing Retail Leadership Summit 2025. Thank you very much, sir.